Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Zwift Command Live broadcast of the Dbr Heino Cup. We're on race number 5. We're on Sand and Sequoias. We're going to be out on Tempest Fugate into the Titans Grove climb for the KOM. 2 laps. The finish is going to go through that overpass arch of a rock pass that is out on the Tempest Fugate, out in the new desert expansion that recently came out on Zwift. Today, I am going to be joined actually by multi-time world champion on the track, Alex Rasmussen. I'm going to bring Alex in real quickly here. And Alex, thanks so much for joining the broadcast. And I hear that you've been broadcasting a little bit of Zwift on your own over on DBR.
Yeah, we've been broadcasting to the Danish community a little bit, and we want to expand that because I see huge potential in this stream and I watch your streams a lot. So we just want to keep expanding the community.
Yeah, awesome. It's really great to have you here. Let's take a quick look at the riders in the start pens here as they're about to get going out on course. We've got, it looks like, about, from what I can see here, what do we got here for start time? I believe we're about 5 minutes away from the start. We're getting going a little bit earlier
Yep.
today because we want to chat a little bit about the current standings for this series. You know, this is one of the most highly contested series in the world of Zwift right now, for sure. You know, the quality of the riders that has been showing up has been extremely high. Currently leading in the series is going to be Steven Kirchmer, it looks like here, coming out of, it looks like Kirchmer East Cycling, 120 points to
Yeah,
that rider
clean
right now.
slate.
That's a pretty, yeah, hasn't lost one yet, it looks like. And
No.
do you think it's going to be? They seem to have the sprint down. I mean, in these races here, Alex.
Yeah, it looks like Stefan Kiersma. He can do pretty much anything he wants. He can sprint. He can do some of the tougher climbs. We finished on the Innsbruck after party a couple of races ago, and he won that as well. So he can do pretty much anything he wants. Like the only competition I see is from Team Canyon with Alex West and Leonel Buyasin.
Yeah, Lionel Wilson, I'd be watching out for him. You know, Canyon is showing up, it looks like, for these races and has been really dominating as far as being one of the teams that's out there pushing the pace. I would call them the most aggressive riders for sure when it comes to the to each of the races we've had so far. You know, it doesn't seem to be paying off as the timing coming from Kirchmer E-Cycling has always been really, really spot on. We had a couple questions last week about Heino and what is Heino, and you know where this Heino Cup started. And I got a couple of messages after the broadcast that I was told it's one of the largest bike stores in Denmark. Is that right, Alex?
Yeah, that's true. That's one of the bigger chains in Denmark, especially in Copenhagen. They have a couple of stores there, huge stores, and they always had um, huge focus. It's actually where I bought my first smart trainer. So they always had focus on smart trainer and Swift in general.
Nice, nice. So yeah, I got a couple of messages. I believe it's from Lars Huseball about Heino. If you do want to interact here, here's Lars actually, as well as Russell Jolliffe saying hello, Nathan and Rod Leach. If you want to interact with us at all, you got questions for myself or Alex about the race, get interactive. You can go ahead and leave a message over on Twitter. You can leave it on Facebook. You can leave it on Twitch or Mixer. We are live on all of those platforms. We'll be able to pull from most of them for your comments. We'll be watching out for those. Also, if you want to help out with the broadcast, make sure to share it up. If you're cheering on your favorite racers, make sure all your friends are seeing them out there in this virtual world of Zwift, hammering away and cheering them on. So in the A category, Steven Kirchmer, Igor Copes, it looks like Lionel Viasin. That's your top 3. Alex West sitting in 4th place currently right now, it looks like. I believe in the overall for the standings. Unless I'm incorrect, I'm gonna have to double check here through some of these results here. But I mean, that's some fast individuals here, and some of the top-ranked riders showing up in the B category. You know, we're not going to be covering the B, C, or D category. We're covering the women's race and the men's race, just so everybody knows on the day here today. Good to see you as well, Jerry Delport, and thanks a lot for jumping in for the race earlier. I got my workout this morning, and we had a couple of the viewers that are hanging out in the broadcast for this Heino Cup number 5 hanging out with about 1:55 to go to the start here, and they were cheering me on. Now it's time to cheer the elite racers on. But for the women's side of things, still pretty dominated by a couple of the national champions out there. Cecilia Hansen, as well as Vicky Whitelaw, sitting first and third. Vicky Nealon from the Brat Pack, though, BRT, sitting there in second place. And they've really been battling it out. But Cecilia and Vicky last week, we saw them out on the Dutchy Estate, Alex, really do kind of a 1-2 up against some of the competition out there. We saw one of the Zwift Academy finalists show up out there. I believe I'm just going to double check on the results here really quick and make sure I got all of the names. But I believe Samara Shepard showed up and was battling it out with those two, but they just really showed why they're some of the strongest riders out on Zwift amongst the women here right now.
I just think it's one of the stronger leagues in general, also with the women's, and it just seems to be growing. The women's division as well is just, and also the level of competition is just so high.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see with who is showing up on the day here today. I'm just going to double check and see also as far as what the field is looking like for the signups for the women in this Dbr Heino Cup. We got 24 seconds to go to the start of the men's race. In the women's race, we got 2:17 to go to the start. But for the women's side of things, over on zippower.com, if you want to ever check out any of where we're finding all this information, that is the best place to go for that. But the signups, we're seeing Vicky Nealon showing up, Catherine Buchholz from Canyon, it looks like, showing up with a whole lot of riders here. I'm seeing 4 with Siri Holdonen, Laura Van Regemortel, Kristen Falk is out there, Eva Catherine Buchholz is out there as well. So Canyon's showing up with some serious firepower. Looks like Cecilia Hansen from Heino is the only one. Revo is showing up, it looks like, with I think almost 10 riders actually. So out on Sand and Sequoias, I think teams are going to be important. It starts out extremely flat, and so I think there's going to be a lot of looking to maybe get organized toward the front end of the race early on. Now, this is a dangerous start, though, because it's so flat. At least my opinion, because it's such a long flat, you could get caught out pretty early on, and the speeds are so incredibly high. You let any kind of a gap go, Alex, your race can just be said and done.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, and you have to be well positioned before going into the forest areas and the hilly section, especially with the big pelotons. Like you see, it gets stretched out so much that the positioning is everything. It's key getting into the hilly forest area.
Yeah, it is definitely everything, and I found that on this course, with the crazy fast starts that we do have out on Zwift, this insane watt fest that you get right from the get-go usually, you got to find a wheel here. You already are seeing it right here. This is exactly what I was talking about. You think because it's a flat course, it's not going to be that big of a deal. You can allow something to get away from you a little bit, but no, already we see a couple of riders here off the back now. An AHDR kit there, it looks like, with Hovset, and then we've got Miosek here as well coming out of France. Already 8 seconds, 9 seconds. Their race looks to be over at this point. And if you're sitting in the back here, as you see with the Vision Rider, Pacheco now, 3.5 watts per kilogram. The speeds can get so high at the front, and if you let anything go and don't find a wheel, this is a dangerous place to be through here. You want to get up toward the front and make sure you're always within those top 10 wheels, I think. And then the pack will settle down and get into a little bit of a rhythm eventually on this course. It usually doesn't happen until you really hit, there's this reservoir, or in the middle of the desert, there's this like oasis of water that you go through midway through. And that's usually where things kind of calm down, Alex.
Yeah, then you get a little break there, but then it goes off again straight after the oasis. And like you see how much it's already stretched out. So it could easily break here if you just have one guy letting go of the wheel in front. So I would stay in the top 20 if I had the legs to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think top 20 is where it's at because you do not want to be caught out. We are looking right around the second, third of the pack here. You are seeing James Phillips there. James Phillips coming from Canada, current UK national champion. Hughes Ball's out here as well. I mean, there's some, again, the firepower amongst the men here is absolutely insane. We've got 60 plus of the strongest riders that we've seen out on Zwift. Ryan Gugliano is out there coming from the draft team. Good to see Team Draft showing up on the day as well. A couple of newer teams that we definitely want to highlight. You know, last couple of weeks we've made sure everybody knows who's who and where. They've had some transfers actually. New teams being formed, new sponsors coming into the world of Zwift esports as well. Callus obviously being one of those as we saw a break off from the KISS Racing team, but the KISS Racing team still showing up on the day here and being a force with Mr. James Hodges, I believe, and maybe a few others jumping into the race here from KRT. DBR toward the front as well. You know, coming from Denmark and knowing some of these Danish riders here, any favorites here, Alex, you know, as far as the DBR team goes that we might be watching out for?
I guess actually from the DBR teams, I got my former teammate Martin Mortensen uh, racing with DBR, and then we also have from Team Fusion. I don't know, I haven't seen him in, but he's on on ninth place in the general classification. That's the Danish champion, Kalman. So I don't know if you've seen him in there so far.
Alexis Kalman, is he racing out here today? So, you know, he was focusing in on the Fusion races a little bit, it looked like,
Yeah.
but I'd definitely be watching out for him toward the front end. I mean, he can, you know, if there is anybody that's going to be challenging Kirchmer, I'd be watching out for Kalman for sure. Now, Kalman's actually, if I'm not incorrect, focuses in on the tri side of things, though. Isn't that right, Alex?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I like a lot of these guys are focusing on something else and using Swift as the preparation tool. But as Swift grows, I think it's gonna be. I think people are gonna change their focus to be up here in some of those community leagues.
Yeah, 100%. I do think that as the benefits and the reality of how big the racing does get, as well as the talent level, we were talking about that earlier today in one of the live streams for the 3R TikTok race, just kind of a fun race to jump into, that the level is so much higher now. It used to be 3, 4, 5 guys that would show up to any race, maybe, that would be the heavy hitters you'd have to watch out for. And now we're looking at somewhere between 50 to 70 to 100 heavy hitters of anybody amongst that pack could kind of be somewhere within a podium or a top 10. The level is just so much higher. But I was also saying, you know, as I get back into a little bit of Swift racing myself, it's really encouraging. You know, some people could take that as a negative. Oh man, it's so difficult to get a good podium spot. It's so difficult to have a good race. But at the same time, that just means that the level's that much higher, and hard racing makes for a harder rider. I mean, that's almost kind of exciting that we're going to get that much stronger fields.
Exactly, and it also if you're one of the riders that gets pushed out of the top level, it just helps pushes you to another level. Even though you're not going to go on the podium, you're still going to be pushed more than you were like a couple of years ago when the level maybe weren't as high.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna take it to you know, as far as making making. We're talking about triathletes, but it's gonna be about being an Ironman. That's for sure. Getting absolutely pushed and hammered on out there. But now looking here, a little bit of maybe not paying attention here. You know, Alex West is known for being one of the best at drafting. I'm not sure. I don't know. Should we use the term wheel sucker? But I mean, he knows how to sit on a wheel. He knows how to sit on a wheel. He knows how to reserve the energy. It's 2 times around on this course. We're looking at 40 plus kilometers, but a little inattentiveness. And you know, Alex West, also Adam Zimmerman in there from Evo Q, a newer team that's out there that he moved over to. Zimmerman here hammering away, former U.S. national champion of Zwift. So again, another heavy hitter and well known amongst the Canyon boys. So they thought maybe that there was a couple of riders that they were sitting on that you can trust, but sometimes that can get you in trouble because everybody's just trusting everybody else to close the gap, and next thing you know, Alex, it's gone.
Yeah, it can be the same outside on the road in the pro peloton. Like if you sit on the wrong wheel, all of a sudden there's a gap you have to close. So it's kind of hard to know how far behind you can go without risking getting dropped or getting behind in a group that can't stay on the wheel in front.
Now let's go ahead and jump on over to the women's race. You know, they're all together here still. Some of the 34, some of the strongest riders out on Zwift, that's for sure. We're looking at Siri Hildonen now coming from the Canyon team. Canyon showing up with 4 riders on the day. Revo's also out here as well. Definitely be watching out for Revo. They showed up with somewhere between I think it was somewhere between 7 and 10 riders here for Revo. Jay right now making her way up toward the front there for Team Revo. Really doing a lot of work up to the front. It is going to be Laura Van Regelmetor, it looks like, as well as B. Ward. Geidson's here as well. A lot of Norwegian.
I think I saw the
though.
German champion also somewhere
Is
in
she
there.
out here? Really? Is that?
Yeah, just I saw the German champion. If you look from above there.
Yeah, it is going to be Buchholz. Buchholz is out here, so I'll be watching out for the German champion. We're seeing a Swedish champion here
Swedish,
as well. So, I mean,
strong peloton.
I'd be watching out for the Swedish champion, though. We did see her last week having a really solid ride. And I'm going to just double check the results here. I believe she was able to walk away with it at the end of the race there. Perhaps Cecilia Hansen, I believe, is who we're talking about here. And she is going to be, I believe, the one that's to watch out for, just walking away, though, perhaps, with the race out here today. A lot of times does get into a good rhythm. She's more of a ruler rider from my experience and tends to be able to just kind of TT away from the rest of the pack. You know, as far as the section that we've been watching out for that, you know, this is an interesting climb. It never gets too sharp. And it seems that it's on the other end of the climb, actually, that you have a lot of opportunity, Alex.
Yeah, it just means you have to keep stay focused for a lot longer than some of the other climbs. Sometimes it's easier with the short hilly climbs where you can just kind of, it starts here and it finishes here, and then you're pretty much safe home. Here on this one, you really have to be focused all the time.
Yeah, and I think that's because drafting is actually still a drafting on this climb is still a huge factor because it never gets too sharp of an uphill, and it kind of has this situation where it undulates a whole lot. You hit this up front, you hit this 3 to 4% gradient, and then it goes downhill, and you think the climb's starting. And a lot of times riders will kind of kick a little bit, thinking, all right, I'm going to hit this KOM, and they start climbing it almost like a Watopia forward or Watopia reverse situation. But what ends up happening is all of a sudden you're going downhill, and the pack comes, and you use all this effort, and you think you're gaining speed, but the pack, because of the snowballing speed effect, they end up passing you while you're putting out 6 watts per kilogram. Yep. So it can be a deceptive climb, and I think it kind of rewards punchy efforts where it is going uphill, but then settling in, using the pack, and really it's about driving it over the top with that final gradient, I think.
Yeah, you almost have to push it, like punch 2 times sometimes just to get with the peloton, or if it starts breaking up, and if you're the guy pushing in the front and then they come from behind like 5-10 guys and then they just go full gas again, then you have to double kick almost.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the reality of how to race this still hasn't been figured out by too many of the racers out there. The really experienced racers, I do think, do get an advantage. Those who do some good course recons and know how to approach this specific climb. It's not as straightforward as hitting the Watopia mountain or hitting a forward Watopia, something like that. Back into the men's race here, they're about to head on over toward the springs here in just a second and climb out toward the first time into Titans Grove. Off the back again, we're looking at Alex West trying to reserve. He's the sprinter, I think. I mean, he's always sitting on the back there, just looking to kind of bring the watts per kilogram down. You can watch where their watts per kilogram are over on zippower.com, and a lot of times we do see that, as it said, it's not the person who puts in the highest wattage or the highest effort throughout. It's usually the person who puts the lowest effort throughout, but then has the biggest kick at the end, and I think that's what Alex is up to there. Alex, well,
yeah, exactly.
Alex West is up to out there.
But like any good sprinter, like a Cav is a really good example of a guy that uses almost. He's probably the guy with the least amount of watts after a Tour de France stage, and then he still has the kick at the end. So it's really not about power, especially on these kind of. I know it's a little bit hilly, but it's still a flattish stage.
Yeah, pretty flat stage. If you look over, there is a great course profile of the stage out there. And the reality is, you got a 2.6 kilometer climb from start to finish at a 2.2% gradient. I mean, that is pretty calm when it comes to the gradient uphill over the top of the KOM. So it's fairly gradual. The reality of how it does have kind of a roller coaster effect throughout it, though, does give it a lot of opportunities to be punchy. I really think the kick after the KOM, it's actually on the other side of this KOM, the highest gradient is after the KOM as you're descending out of Titans Grove. It gets into a 6 to 7% gradient on that section, and the second one, actually, that kicker, I think that's the place to be watching out for. We'll be seeing if the riders really take advantage of that section of the course here. Ollie Jones, we see up toward the front there, Zwift Academy winner. I believe that is 2017 now, riding out for Canyon ZCC. He's out there today coming out of New Zealand. A couple of the New Zealand boys really looking for an early morning start, it looks like, here to show up for their team. That's some sacrifice. I mean, I think it's probably like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. over there.
Yeah, it must be really early in the morning, but it's it's a good way to get out of the bed and get the day started.
Yeah, for sure.
Now we see some wattage being put out.
Yeah, the orange numbers are starting to pop here, that's for sure. And moving to the front immediately, it looks like it was Thule taking over a little bit now. Now, Nosen Hodges, though, it looks like, from Evo Q. Hodges has been an extremely strong rider lately. He's been showing up, and a name that has recently been on my radar simply because he's been winning some fusion races on Tuesdays. He's been showing up in these races, getting good results. I'll be watching out for him in his sprint to the arch. Evanson now taking up toward to the front. David from PLCC, always a very aggressive rider in these races here as they head into Titans Grove. Now, this is just the kick into Titans, or the rise that you might want to call it, into Titans Grove here. This is not the climb actually into the KOM here, but it is a little bit of a place where you can put some hurt into the legs. But going too hard here, you're going to get into those roller coasters now, and the pack is going to get some advantage on any of the draft and kind of come along with a little bit of that roller coaster or that snowball effect that the Peloton tends to have through rollers like this. 4% uphill gradient, as we can see now. Now we do have at the front here taking over. A Belgian rider is going to be Demjanik and Soboda here as well. Pettinger from Vision that we can see, but Goliv from the Vikings team. Vikings a little bit quiet recently out on Zwift. You know, they've been showing up, but not maybe getting the results that they've been looking for. I'm going to take a look quickly at the current standings. We're not seeing them actually within the top 10 right now at this point. So interesting to see. We are seeing, though, Zimmerman currently sitting, and we did see Zimmerman making his way to the front, throwing down some orange numbers here. I think he's looking for a solid result as he's just outside of the top 5 right now at 58 points. He's about 8 points behind 5th place there. That is Martin Hammer Larson. Riding for, is that Pauto? I thought it said Potato. What is that team? Po Auto? Is that correct?
It's PO Auto, so it's a car company or car dealership in Denmark.
That's what I was thinking. I was wondering if that was if that's what it was there. That's cool to see, actually, that we have car dealerships now. I mean, now we're getting into the real esports, right? I mean, when you start getting a sponsorship there from Ford,
yeah,
and, you know, and Chevy and etc. from the U.S. side of things, now we start talking NFL type deals here. So good to see that there's some teams forming around some outside of the cycling demographic. Non-endemic situation going, and they're pretty cool to see as they come into.
I'd love to get more car brands involved. Maybe you and me, we can get a Porsche dealer if we keep streaming. That would be really amazing idea. I think
we'll roll up. Well, that'll be the new intro to the Zwift community live stream. We'll get off of the Watopia volcano. We'll just pull up in the Porsche, close the door, and start a ZCL stream as we walk into the studio. That'd be pretty great.
Oh,
we are getting a couple of comments
forward to that.
Through over on the Facebook here. Actually, Vicky Whitelaw, who I was wondering if was going to show up in the race today, but it looks like she's hanging out cheering on her teammates, saying, "Go Cecilia Hansen," and saying she is definitely one to watch out for. It was Vicky Whitelaw and Cecilia Hansen that both ride for Heino that were taken over at the front end of the race last week out on the Dushy Estate. We're able to do a little bit of cat and mouse, rope-a-dope on Samara Shepard and break that World Cup mountain bike rider actually before they hit the finish line. So it was a solid result for them. Vicky Whitelaw, I believe, is actually sitting currently in the standings right now in 3rd place. So looks like taking a break this week. Best of 8 races. She's got 3 races in, so perhaps was mainly there for the support of her teammate, as I'm not sure she's going to be able to get here, a total of 8 races in with how many we have left out here today. Now we're going to be starting the climb proper, though. 3% uphill gradient here, and as they leave the dinosaur watering fountain, and we see the T-Rex there go off on the right-hand side, we're about to hit this right-hand turn, and this will be when the KOM officially starts here, and the riders are already starting to push the pace a little bit, but I think they're mainly looking for positioning. And from a racing perspective here, Alex, how important is this positioning coming into this KOM?
Oh, it's absolutely, it's key. It's absolutely key to be. But I think it's already, the legs is already hurting. Like the section before, which is not the official climb, is definitely something that could put some hurt into your legs. So I think you're kind of positioned where you are at this point. And it's just really interesting to watch them go through this area, because there's no place where they can just hide or where they just relax. Like, they have to keep the pressure on all the time and stay focused.
We are getting a little correction there. Vicky, I appreciate it. I assumed that you were out there, but it was Louise Hubach, actually. So Heino with 3 of the fastest racers there amongst the women. I assumed that it was you out there, but no, great correction. There was Louise Hubach that was out there last week for Heino Racing Team. I just noticed, Vicky, that you were in 3rd place in the overall, so I assumed that it was you out there hammering away with your teammate Cecilia Hansen. But it looks like Louise as well as Vicky have been out there supporting Cecilia and getting her into that current position of 1st place out on the women's race right now. The women are just heading into Titans Grove right now. We're watching Fox here coming from the Wahoo Esports team, who was able to land that spot on the Wahoo Esports team at the UK National Championships at that live race. Good to see her out there. She's following Jennifer Rio there from Team Fearless. It looks like B Ward from Revo now starting to take over. A little bit of a split here in the women's race now. Dangerous section to let anybody go. Now, Neelan here from BRT, this is what she needs to do. Vicky Neelan from the Brat Pack here, 82 points currently. She is in 2nd place overall amongst the women in this Heino Cup series right now. 4 events in, and Vicky Neelan's got a gap here, 2 seconds. Hansen, you can see, kind of sitting in at 2-2. Trusting that these ups and downs before they hit the actual KOM maybe are going to assist the pack and bring this back. But Vicky Neelan, she just doesn't care. She looks like she's throwing her chips on the table here, Alex.
Yeah, you might as well go for it here, because it's such a small group behind, and who's going to pick up the pace? Who's going to chase her back? So if she feels comfortable at this pace, why not go for it?
Yeah, for sure. Now, anybody in this group here, we are seeing a couple out of Denmark here. Madsen here from, it looks like Team Turbo here. And one of the stronger teams that we've seen out on, but a little bit quieter as of recently, as there's been a lot of teams that have been trading and kind of going for free agents going this way and that way between each other. But Madsen Turbo coming out of Denmark, 164 beats per minute. Looks like she's got some power and some heart rate to work with before they hit this KOM. Be watching out perhaps for Tirap here, as she's sitting, it looks like, in 6th place overall for her Team Turbo. Helen McKay is also riding for Team Turbo, currently sitting in 7th place, I believe it is. So those riders may be looking to edge their way onto the podium. Back in with the men's race, though, they're just climbing over the top now. They're on the downhill section and driving the pace over the top. It looks like it was at the front end of this race. James Hodges, actually, from the KRT team, always willing to stick his nose in the wind. A couple of riders here getting into the Super Tuck now, as you can see. Jolov here coming from Cryogen in the blue and white kit that they've been using for Tour de Pier for quite a long time. We're seeing the dropouts with Mike Schwarp now, and lots of Aero Tucks now, it looks like, as they're about to come into what I would call the most dangerous section of the course, because anybody who's really got their heart rates over threshold, they're going to have to be watching out for these gaps to open up as they hit these punchers here, Alex.
Yeah, and also that's probably the perfect time to put in the last attack. There's only like, what, 5Ks to the finish line here when they come next lap around. So it would be a good opportunity just to go for it. And people are going to be hurting anyway, even though they have this small downhill before they hit this final kicker.
Yeah, this is exactly where they need to make something happen, I think. Maybe not this lap. This lap perhaps maybe a little bit early to make anything happen.
Yeah.
You could end up with a little bit of a breakaway situation, but it's going to be a long TT, especially on the flatter sections with how much the groups tend to be able to work together. This is what we were talking about. The second kick here, 5% gradient now. They're going to take this little bit of left-hand turn here, and now it gets into 6, 7% now. And Hodges to the front knows this is exactly where you need to go. It's starting to string out here. Anybody that's already been looking for recovery is going to be put on the back foot, and we could end up with a breakaway situation. And, it'd almost be like a group rather than a smaller breakaway that might be able to form here with enough riders to kind of roll away from anybody who's really hurting.
Yeah, you don't want to be out there alone with so far to go and on the flat, especially coming into the last climb on the last lap and be hurting, and everybody from behind is just going to be chilling and sitting on and coming in with fresh legs. So, but it's easy to see how much more bigger gaps there are here on the
Yeah, you
last kicker. Come.
Yeah, you do see it looks like at the front here, Cryogen trying to take over a little bit, and the gap's not really open up too much, so it looks like all the riders have been pretty attentive here at this point. Jensen there from Fusion at the back. A couple of riders, though, maybe unaware of how crucial this section is. A lot of times you do think it's a downhill, no big deal. We'll be able to hold on. Phillips, though, being a rider who's not one of the lightest here, maybe was hoping to find a wheel on the way down. Now has to kick into 7.2 watts per kilogram quickly there. He's a rider who knows how to win races out here, so interesting to see. He's found himself out the back. It looks like he was trusting the wattage he had. Caller here coming from Innovation out of Belgium. It looks like also Team Finesse now trying to jump back on. So now this is what I was talking about. One of the most dangerous sections because the group is gone. And if you don't got 10 watts per kilogram for quite a long time, you're not bringing it back. I mean, you let this go. Look how fast they're just rolling away. And that's that roller coaster effect. Collard had 8 watts per kilogram, but it didn't serve him anything here as he's blowing up at 184 beats per minute here. West toward the back here, making sure they hold on to the wheel. You let any gap go, it's over, Alex.
He's living life dangerously, Alex West in the back. But he seems to know what he's doing. But I always see him at the back, but he somehow manages to get past the people getting dropped every time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the most experienced Zwifters. This is a rider who announced, last year he wasn't going to be riding as much in real life on any of the teams. We're just going to focus completely on Zwift racing. So probably has the experience to know when to go and when not to go. We're seeing here Lursveen now, Vikings, Ali Jones, Canyon, now Bergen as well coming from the Vikings team. It looks like all able to hang on in and amongst the racers here. Let's talk a little bit of stats as things calm down. Actually, no, excuse me. Don't want to. I am seeing some moves being made in the women's races. They headed toward the top of the climb, so that's what we need to be looking at. This is the final push to the top here. Vicky Nealand, she was really pushing the pace at the bottom of this climb, looking to try and get a break. It looks like she's able to drop a couple of riders off. B. Ward here just trying to hang on. She's at the back here. Wright's now off the back here. We're seeing Victoria Vasquez as well as Holmeston from Rebo team now, forming a little bit of group here that's not quite to the top now. K. Paul Core is there as well. Shuffle Botten and Geitzen now. Siri Hildonen, Canyon off the back. Nielsen as well from DBR, not able to hang on. So this group has definitely been pushing the pace, and Vicky Nealand did the work, but she has not accomplished, I think, what she was looking to do, and that's breaking first place, which is Cecilia Hansen. I believe Hansen's been able to make this, and there she is. Yep, riding for Heino, sitting around 7th place here at this point. Vicky still pushing the pace, but it doesn't seem to be accomplishing what she's looking for. BRT isolated out here up against a whole lot of Revo and Canyon ZCC. And Cecilia Hansen, though, riding for Heino, she doesn't got any support either. She's going to have to make it happen all on her own. We're also seeing another rider, obviously Fox, there that's not with much support there, Alex.
No, I think I actually saw Cecilia Hansen bringing it back, so she seems to be pretty strong. So she just want to keep this group together, and her sprint is pretty solid. So she wants this group to come together for the final lap.
Yeah, you think that might be what she's looking for? I mean, the reality of this course, it does kind of suit a sprint situation. Trying to get away on the roller coaster or solo rider doing that with the way that a pack can pull you back together, even if it's down to 5. I think you got to get down to that 3-4 riders or maybe 5 rider situation.
Yeah.
Anything more than that is probably going to bring you back because of the roller coaster, Alex.
Exactly, and you need to, and if you want to try to go away on the last lap, yeah, I think you need at least 1 or 2 guys to come with you, because it's just going to be too difficult going solo that far out.
Yeah, exactly. That's it's just too much. And as we're going into this little bit of a kick here, we'll see what's going to happen now. This is an opportunity at this point to try and get a few more of these riders to drop off, and Hansen's doing just that. 8.4 watts per kilogram, making her way to the front. Here's the right hand turn into the 6% gradient. This is the kick, the second kick on the down, well, on the leaving of the Titans Grove here, and she does get that gap we were talking about there. King now trying to close it down from CLS there. Fox trying to go as well. Fox in third wheel. Able to find the wheels here, it looks like, but Neelan now 4.3 watts per kilogram. Now, will the speed from the pack bring Cecilia Hansen back? She backs off to 1.9 watts per kilogram. It's going to be all about punching watts into each one of these climbs. It doesn't look like she's too interested. Well, perhaps she is. 6.0 watts per kilogram we're seeing into that 6% gradient, but is she making the correct? It's all about speed, actually, and it's about the timing more than it is about the watts. We look at the watts per kilogram. We're always talking about watts per kilogram out on Zwift, but speed is still king. And knowing how to position the avatars, time your speed correctly, kind of get that the depth perception correctly. It's something that really comes with gaming well and getting a lot of experience out on Zwift to know how your avatar is going to interact with the terrain there, Alex.
Yeah, and it could be quite deceptive on these rolling hills with the watts per kilo because it changes so rapidly. It's a lot easier on these long, steady climbs to see what people can actually push. Here, it's about like timing it, when to push and when to relax when you come over the top of these small hills.
Exactly, and if you are able to punch into each one of these hills, carry that speed through, that's what can really get away. And if you don't time it correctly, you can see exactly what happened there. It looked like Cecilia maybe a little bit off on the timing into one of those punchers, did not get the right speed that she needed over the top there, and immediately the pack brought her right back. It might have been almost an impossible attempt, though. Now back in with the men's race, though. There was an attack here coming from
See three Danish bike riders here.
Yeah, and do we know this rider here? Rodtins.
Yeah.
Want to help me with the name there?
Rotnes.
Rotnes.
And then,
right.
Yeah, and Mortensen and another guy, Larsen from Danish Bike Riders. Like, they try to do something here on the flat section, which is quite unusual and hard to get away with. See, they're being brought back now, but it was a cool attempt.
They do have 3 off the front, 4 off the front, actually, all Danish flags. It strung things out a little bit, and if a few of the other teams are not super interested in making the chase, it could make something happen here. 177 beats per minute here we're seeing from them. Rowler 157, though. Golev here 170. It may be putting a couple of riders here into that threshold or into a little bit of the hurt locker here. We could see a counter from another team, perhaps, if they're interested in trying to make a break here at this point. But it looks like it's settling right on down. You see the pack starting to really come together into that hand-holding type situation, and I think there's not going to be a whole lot of interest at this point unless we get an immediate counter to those attacks. It looks like that's not going to be happening. Everyone's settling on down 47 kilometers per hour at this point. We're looking at a 42 kilometers on the day here. 2 laps total. We're just starting the second lap on the San Sequoias onto the flat sections of the Tempest Fugit, and interesting to see. Hasn't really, it was a hard climb, but I don't think anyone went all in on that first climb, knowing the second one's going to be where it's at.
No, definitely not. I think they just wanted to survive. Like, people were scared how hard they were going to go, how deep they were going to go on the first lap, and then we see things settling in now. And then I think it's all about getting the heart rate down, taking some deep breath, and getting ready for the final attack over Titans Grove.
Exactly. All about the final attack over the top there. I'm expecting a lot of punching, though. A lot of really high wattage into the roller coaster on the other side. It'll be all about a very high, steady pace, I think, heading through the switchbacks to the top of Titans Grove KOM. We may see a couple attacks out the front here to try and get some wiggle room, or perhaps just roll off the front there. Because of the nature of the climb, and it being a climb that you usually do not sacrifice too much because there's so much drafting on it, getting away a little bit beforehand could reward a rider who has a very high 20-minute FTP. And some of the riders that do not have the sprint, that's what they're going to have to be thinking about, because we've got Steve Young, Canyon ZCC, one of the best sprinters I know of out there. James Phillips, one of the best sprinters. Alex West, one of the best. Essentially, we have, sprinting kings out here right now. Is Kirchner cycling in the race here today, though? I'm looking through, and
yeah, I saw him.
Okay, so we do have Michael Haar. We're seeing Schaefer, But are we seeing him here in the? I'm not. I'm not looking. I'm looking through the signups, and for Kirchner Cycling, not
I
seeing
can see him
anything.
down. I saw him just a second ago, but they keep passing each other so fast. But for sure, he's in the group.
Okay, gotcha. Right on. So Steven is out here, so he will be looking to defend that top spot. You know, it's interesting how Heino Cup has organized things out here as far as the points go. Every single race matters. Some of the point structures we've seen in the past really have some bigger rewards for taking first compared to fifth place. The point structure from 30th all the way down from first to 30th place, it's 30, 29, 28, all the way down to 1 point. I mean, that really puts a lot on the line for each and every place that you got to fight tooth and nail for every position that you get out here.
Yeah, I kind of like that format. So there's always something to fight for, even though maybe it's not your preferred course, it's not ideal for you. You still want to fight to get a good position. So, like if I was racing, I would still fight for like 10th or 20th. Like, whoa, Hodges are going.
Yeah, Hodges here, he kicked at about, I think it was 11 watts per kilogram to get off the front here. He gets a 4-second gap. This is the section to go. It's got a 1% uphill grade. We go through the oasis here on the Tempest Fugit in the desert. So gets a little bit of extra water maybe as he comes by some of the springs and a little bit of extra energy. Wally here from EVOQ says, look, this is a threat because when we're talking about somebody who has a TT type effort, Hodges is one of those riders. He's a veteran type rider. He might not have the same kind of kick as some of the other riders that got the sprint to the line, but he definitely has the FTP to work with here. I wouldn't let this go too far. He
Exactly.
gets 30 seconds. It might be a serious threat here.
Yeah, Nathan, it's almost like you predicted it. You said a guy with a good 20-minute power effort could jump ahead here and get an advantage before he hit the hilly section. So like it looks like Hodges listened to you and try to get away and get a little head start before the climb.
He says it's enough, though. Maybe it was just trying to get some camera time. It was all about the camera time. That's all it was as he backs on off here. 2.7 watts per kilogram. You know, at 150 beats per minute, I think he's got something more to work with here. Maybe the cake is a lie out here still, though. Oh, as he goes off, yeah, maybe. Okay, it was just an interval.
Oh,
That's all that was going
through.
on. 5 watts per kilogram. Maybe he's going to jump back on. Now, this shows the show, though, how incredibly fast a pack will come up on you and just swallow and spit you out on a flat section like this.
Yeah.
Negative gradient, it just the pack just snowballs.
I would love to see a stat on Alex West to see if he's like been constantly among the last 5 riders in the pack, because he's been like surviving, but always just stays in the back and don't push too many watts. And I'm gonna look out for him in the sprint.
Yeah, I would definitely be watching out for West in the sprint here. I'm going to take a quick look here, and as we look at the live results as they come through, the live results are actually not updating here, so we'll have to wait and see if perhaps we'll be able to get those coming through here in just a moment so we can look at some of the watts per kilogram. But the Canyon ZCC riders definitely have been fairly chill. Usually the most aggressive, but I think their aggressive rider, that is Vyasen out here, has not been really sticking his nose in the wind too much. Is Lionel actually out here today? Because I'm not seeing the Belgian flag. And usually Vyasen just does not care to hold up. And so it looks like perhaps that may be why Canyon ZCC has been so quiet, as their usual workhorse that tends to try and put everybody on the back foot is not out here today from what I can see. But it does look like Kirchner here now, 3.6 watts per kilogram. Also a rider's been sitting in. He tends to be toward the middle of the pack. That's where I like to be as well. I found that when you're out on Zwift and you're racing, and if you hang out where Hodges is at now, Alex West has been at, you tend to maybe have to waste a couple of those little sprint efforts because somebody will let the pack go, or it'll open up just a little bit. You know, sitting at something that's a little bit closer to a tempo toward the middle of the pack, I find tends to reward you a little more for reserving the energy.
Yeah, I agree, especially on the flat sections here. It's just about preserving energy and getting as much as a draft as possible. So, but when we come to the hilly section or the undulating hills, then it's all about being in the top 10, because otherwise you just get spat out the back.
We're hearing actually from somebody over at the Twitch chat that Vyausten is in London, so it sounds like he's out traveling. So maybe out there racing, perhaps. Something to do, perhaps, as we're in cyclocross season. And he's definitely a very very elite cyclocross racer. Perhaps he's out there racing a little bit in real life and traveling, but it looks like that's the reason why we may not see him out here well, we are not seeing him out here today. Taking over to the front again, though, it looks like a blue jersey, and that is going to be Evo Q here. A little bit of a gap, 6.3. He grabs, this was kind of those roll off the front, are they going to follow situations? And then he says, no, they're not. Kicks into 6 watts per kilogram. Now, look at this, 46 kilometers per hour. Madsen now 43. P. Wally here now. Oh man, it's so difficult.
It's a real sneak attack.
It is super sneaky, but man, it's so difficult. You really have to have a hard head. I mean, I don't know if that's the way to say it, but I mean, you gotta really want it to try and get away from a pack like this on these sections. But it's right before the rise, so this little bit of a gap may reward him if he can hold on to this. But holding 5-6 watts per kilogram, will he have the orange numbers to hold on? As they will definitely kick into 9, maybe 10 watts per kilogram as they head into the rise in the Titans Grove in just a moment. We'll see what happens here. But P. Wally putting the risk and a couple of the chips on the table before we see what the rest of the pack's going to do here, Alex. Good on him, and getting perhaps some of that most aggressive rider as maybe we'll have to – I'm going to call it out here, Alex. Amongst the men and the women, we're going to have to call out who's the most aggressive rider on the day. We'll after the broadcast make sure you're watching closely to grab a name there. But Wally here definitely showing that he's looking for that reward. Jollop here from Cryogen taking over toward the front. Melville there as well, coming out of Australia in the salmon kit. Looks like that's a Black Sheep cycling kit he probably got from hanging out in the Lamb Chop. If you don't know what I'm talking about with Lamb Chop, that's tomorrow. Make sure if you want to race against some of the best out on Zwift and get a chance at winning no matter what category you're in, Lamb Chop Racing tomorrow going to be happening at 7 GMT and 7:45 GMT. Women's race only at 7 and 7:45. Thanks so much to the rider out there that's out in that Lamb Chop kit to help us with shouting that out, and good to see that it's been being worn by some of the riders. 5 seconds, not much to work with. I think it's going to be brought back in pretty easily here.
Yeah, I agree. Like this section here, like it's just such a long section with over the hills on Titans Grove. So it's not like the one. I'd say the one in Innsbruck, the small one. If you get like 5 to 10 seconds there, you can actually make it to the finish line. But here it's just too far away.
Yeah, and as you can see, Wally immediately brought back in. So it looks like Hodges, though, coming over the top with the counterattack. He was pumping out 8 watts per kilogram for a moment here. Maybe a little frustrated as he was listening to the broadcast as we said, nope, spit out the back here. But going off the front here, 3 seconds immediately. Bergen there coming from the Vikings team with the response now. 6 watts per kilogram coming from him. Evenson. Schwartz there from dropouts. Larson now, DBR now taking over toward the front. All kind of into not a strung out situation. It's pretty bunched up, so I think the pack is working well together at this point, and nobody really on a back foot. I think pretty comfortable when it comes to the heavy hitters now at this point still. Evola here now from BZR. Second wheel as Cryogen continues to take over at the front end and drive the pace. Now Vikings here, it looks like now taking over toward the front as well. Ollie Jones. Bergen, though, is going to be the rider. BRT with the Kate Robertson coming out of the UK, 4 watts per kilogram as they head into Titans Grove. 3% uphill gradient to be taking the straight on, not the left-hand turn on over toward Watobia Mountain and Ocean Boulevard, but instead they're going into the KOM here in just a moment. And it looks like we've got a good contingent. I'm going to take a quick look toward the back here of this, and it looks like 38, 40-ish riders still hanging out, but I think it is going to get split up a little bit. And if they want some solid chances of winning a sprint even, they still got to push the pace. It can't just be a Sprinter's Delight flat race here because the chances go way down with how many heavy hitters we got here, Alex.
Do we have Alex West in the back again? Is he still living life dangerously?
Yes, it does look like he is. It looks like Alex West, always with the... Now, maybe he changed up the avatar a little bit. You can usually spot him out as he's got the Aero helmet, the TT helmet on. It looks like this week he's changed it up a little bit here as he's got the pink cap on. with the Canyon bike and the full disc wheel now with the Zip 808s for this course out here today.
It's just funny to see him sitting down there where he could easily sit up where Kirchmeier is sitting, because he's probably in a much safer position, and he's been like top 20 almost the entire race and stays out of danger. You see, Ollie and West is just living life in the back, like the last 5 positions.
Yeah, it's good. It's interesting to see, but maybe that's confidence speaking there, as well as perhaps working together with the team. You can see that Steve Young. You see a lot of Canyon toward the back there. I think they're kind of there to support each other. They know that if a wheel does go enough that they can bring a couple of riders back. You know they're in a Discord channel chatting away with each other. They take these races extremely seriously. So I think they have the confidence that they know they can sit where they want to. Kirchmer with only, what are we seeing here? I think 2, maybe 3 riders. Steven Kirchmer's in there. Michael Haar's in there, but he's already off the back. So Kirchmer is isolated. He's got nobody to chat with, and he's got to really secure himself in this race here, in this pack at this point, if he's going to be looking for the sprint. Whereas Canyon, with so many riders in there and the communications that they have on the team radio, they've got a lot more tactics to work with, I think, Alex.
Exactly, but we saw the same thing last week when in Harrogate at the World Championship course, and even there, Kirchmeier was able to pull it out in front of Alex West. So he's just, if you're strong enough, it doesn't matter how big the other team is.
That is true, definitely true. We are seeing here Rowler now showing if he's strong enough as he starts to kick, but this is one of those sections. You think the climb is starting, immediately into a downhill now, and it can be extremely tricky to try and make something happen to get any benefit on a climb here on this situation. Your Rowler now 5.8 watts per kilogram. We're going to get into another 3 to 4% gradient here as it kicks again. Bergen here looking to take advantage of that kick from the Vikings team. Evenson now toward the front there as well. As you can see, Vision there now with Pettinger starting to take over. Madsen from Fusion. Vikings now, a little bit of a kick here coming from one of the Viking members in the blue and black, and that is going to be Goliv now. 168 beats per minute. Robinson from the BRT sitting on his wheel in second place there. Ollie Jones from Canyon now 2.3 as it backs off again at a 0% gradient. Everybody really knowing how to ride this climb, knowing that it's all about the punches and about the drafting on each of the sections that are flatter or even downhill, as it's one of those proper switchback type climbs that you see out in the real world of cycling, where it's about keeping it steady and punching at the right times here. Pettinger from Vision now. Callis, Vang now toward the front. Norway trying to take over. No, Vikings now again. Bergen, it looks like. Really, the Vikings haven't been alive at the front here. I think they want a result. As I think everybody, though, is really looking at Kirchmer. They all kind of want a result, I think, out there up against Kirchmer Cycling, because Steven's been so incredibly dominant. And, you know, as far as who's really, I think, chomping at the bit and really sitting back and waiting and wanting the timing to be completely correct, it's going to be Canyon ZCC, I think, that's going to be trying to set their riders up as best they possibly can. They've shown up with their sprinters out here today. Hodges, though, now showing why he's always one of the most aggressive riders on the day. 3% uphill gradient at this point. We've got 2 more switch paths to go, it looks like, before we hit the top. Halfway through the KOM, 3:35 here at this point. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at what the last time over the top of the climb was. It does look like it was a 350, and James Hodges was the one that took it. Now, Vang here, as it hits the 3% gradient here. Callis now, they're knowing that it's going to be all about the breakaway situation and maybe not the sprint for them. So Morten Vang here now out of Norway, super strong attack. He was a 353 over the top here, 15 plates over the top. It looks like he may be taking the fastest time over the top. Zimmerman knowing that this may be a real move. Or no, not Zimmerman, excuse me, actually. It looks like it's Hammer here coming out of Denmark. Now 181 beats per minute looking to go across here. 3 riders now. Bergen trying to go from the Vikings now here as well. Kops here coming from Team Heino. Hodges, Evo Q. One of the best sprinters that we've seen out on Zwift recently as well, trying to get across, maybe just hold on to the wheel, but Rowler continues on with the Callis rider, Morten Vang, who's one of the strongest climbers we know of out on Zwift, trying to take advantage of this KOM. Here's the final switchback. There's going to be a final kick to the top of this climb. We'll probably be seeing less than the 350 here on this Titans Grove climb, and now it is again we can see this kick here coming from the Danish rider with Rowler as well. 3 off the front. Bergen trying to close it down. They're going to have to continue on. This cannot be a situation where they back off. They have to have the continuance over the top. They have to push the pace over the top of this climb and continue with the speed as they hit the punches. But this roller coaster with 3 riders, this could be a threat if they ride it correctly, though. This is going to be all about the timing of the watts as they push them out. Rowler now comes over the top here. It looks like we'll have to wait and see as it populates for how fast things were. Looking at for Rowler with a 3. That was 10 seconds faster. We said, Alex, we said last time was just kind of a chill ride over the top. That's exactly what it was. This is real attacks now.
This is a serious attack, and you see Morten Weng, which is I met him a couple of times at some of the Swift events, and he's always been really good on the hilly KOM, and he's just going to push it all the way to the finish line. They still have that small kicker before they get the final last 5 kilometers flat. So let's see if anybody's interested in the peloton and bringing them back.
We do see Phil here from DBR now making his way to the front, but it's 0 watts per kilogram. A lot of aero tugs happening here. 7 seconds is the difference here. They have to work together so well. They have to be very motivated and just not care at this point. They got to take the speed in here now into these kickers. Now there's going to be one kicker. It's going to be a little bit of a bump, and then we've got a serious 6% gradient. They need to hold on to this gap though at this point. Look at how fast that the pack is coming on though. 5 seconds here now. It starts to level out the 5% negative. Now Kirchner now making his way to the front here. As you can see, they still have a gap as we look over the shoulders of the peloton here. It's a race of meters at this point. Here's the first bump. 4%, 5%, 6% gradient here coming from them. We can see they're pushing 7 watts per kilogram at the front. Kopp's now maybe trying to get a break. No, he's sitting in at 4 watts per kilogram. They're trusting still. Now it's into 6% though. This is the real bump here at this point. A little bit of a kicker now. 9 watts per kilogram coming from the draft riders to McQuaid now, starting to really hammer in the red kit now with the big D on the back there. Now we're seeing it looks like Larson, DBR taking over. They catch the riders that were in the break here now at this point. This is where the race may be made. Anybody who's been just trying to hang on could get dropped off, but they got to get the elastic to snap. It's all about creating some sort of a gap between some of the riders. Somebody letting a wheel go and allowing this speed to get away from them. Not sure it's going to happen as there's so many strong riders. And with Alex West at the back of the pack there, I think he will be the rider to jump on a wheel and bring this back together. Cannon seems very comfortable with just allowing this to happen at the front, trusting it's going to come back together.
Yeah, they seem to know. They seem to have a lot of experience on this Titans Grove, and they know how to bring it back together. And they have Ollie Jones to lead out Alex West, or maybe they both do the sprint. But they also know just to keep an eye on Kirchmeier, who has pretty much won last 4 races. So that's the 3 guys to look out for in the sprint, I think.
You do see Kirchner there. He's in the Bumblebee kit, as I'll call it. They're right next to Alex West, actually, who gets into the Super Tuck now as they head into another 8% uphill gradient. Another little punch now, 10 watts per kilogram, coming from Robertson. They're still looking to string things out a little bit here. McQuaid there in the red kit, though, sitting in about 10th wheel. It's all about that 6th to 10th wheel here at this point. That's where the most advantage is going to happen. But just off the back of that 6th to 10th, you tend to get where the elastic does snap. Schmort, maybe in that section, need to be watching out for. On the back, we do see an innovation rider actually still here in that alien kit, as you can see, jumping a little bit there. It looks like on the orange/red bike now. It is going to be Thule riding for innovation, hanging on in the back here. Still, we're looking at 30-plus riders now. Hornbeck now, it looks like, in the orange kit as we come into the final few little punches before they leave Titans Grove. It's going to be just a flat race with a sprint. And this, okay, so, another kick, though. I thought it was about to calm down, actually. We're going to talk about how the sprint might play out. Schwart from dropouts.
I think this was
to be interested.
Last kick here.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like I don't think anyone's going to want to risk it at this point. And the type of sprint that we have here and the way that it plays out, it tends to be cat and mouse games a little bit. But I mean, sometimes it's a slow sprint. But with how many riders we have here, I think it's going to be a crazy drag race. And with the reality of hanging on to a drag race type sprint, you need to reserve everything you got, because really you end up in a VO2 max effort with a sprint at the end.
Yeah, and it's going to be a long sprint for sure. I think definitely Canyon is going to do something like from 500 meters out, just to stretch it out and to keep Alex in a good position.
You're multi-time world champion out on the track. Alex. And you've got a lot of experience, obviously, in these kinds of sprints, in these kinds of efforts here. And would you relate that in any way to your experience on the track? Does it feel similar? How is it different? Specifically on this course, I'm assuming you've raced out on this course. What would you say in this situation that compares to what you've done in real life?
Actually, it's quite similar to track sprinting because it's seated efforts, and I would imagine most people on a smart trainer is doing the sprint seated. So you can do it a little bit longer. You don't acid as much as you do on a road sprint where you're out of the seat. So it's a different kind of sprint, and yeah, you get really strong buttocks from doing these sprints. But it's something you learn a lot on the track.
Interesting. So not quite as much quad, getting more of that hamstring and
Yeah,
and the
exactly.
back end of the
Hamstrings.
muscles there. Interesting. Okay, so in a lot of seated, yeah, you did, and I had that today actually. I noticed. I do stand up a lot. I try and kick. As you get a big reward in Zwift a lot of times from those big jumps in watts per kilogram, but then at that point you got to kind of hold on to it all the way to the end. All right, so
you can't stay you can't stay out of the seat as long as you can on the road because you can't push your bike back and forth like you can on the road.
Exactly. So it tends to be just a one real quick punch, that's for sure.
Exactly.
Now we're going to start getting the predictions here. I'm already starting to see some of the predictions here. We'll be jumping into the ladies race real quickly here. I am seeing your messages coming through, and they are just getting into their climb here. I wanted to make sure that we were following along with the men's action as it was heating up there. The women's race all still together pretty much. Europe is falling off a little bit with a 1 second gap here, but toward the front it does look like Cecilia Hansen and Daniela here starting to try and get away. Neelan's there as well. But as we head into the men's sprint, we'll jump back into the ladies race here in just a moment as they are starting to heat up their race and getting into their final KOM climb here. But we had a little bit of attack off the front there. They're just letting the rider go. I mean, this is dangerous, actually, and I've seen this work before, specifically on this course. I have seen somebody ride away, and nobody wants to do anything about it because of the cat and mouse nature of this sprint, that once it starts ramping up, you just got to hang on, and everyone's looking to reserve. Hodges has a good gap. It's 8 seconds, but he has to put out 6 to 7 watts per kilogram until, look, 0, it's over. Nope, no way for Hodges. Hodges going long, we're hearing from CS Tricks, but I don't think it's going to happen. My prediction, I want to see a Canyon. Well, I don't know. The other Hodges from Evo Q, is a danger. Ollie Jones, though, 13 watts per kilogram coming from Ollie Jones. He's going from way out Kirchmer. He knows that's a wheel to follow here. I think he's tempting him out, though. And the rest of the riders, though, Phillips, Alex West, they're all just following along here. I think the idea here is to tempt Kirchmer out and to break him before they hit the finish line. I don't know if it's going to happen, though. It looks like the rest of the riders here trying to respond. Ollie Jones is still pushing 11 watts per kilogram. What a drag waste. We said it was going to go from way out here. Rowler now 6.9 watts per kilogram here. Ollie Jones continues on. Kirchmer's just holding on to the wheel. It might be too much, though, for the rider here. He's still away. 10 watts per kilogram, but he's up at the 197 beats per minute here. Ollie Jones fades. He was able to get him to jump out of the pack, but it might have just set him up here as he continues on. 800 watts. James Phillips has 60 watts per kilogram, though. Here comes Phillips. Here comes Zimmerman. Zimmerman kicks now. 15 watts per kilogram coming from Zimmerman. Kirchmer gets the flag, though, so maybe there's going to be a DQ.
Alex.
And it might be Zimmerman.
Third.
As Alex, it looks like, comes through. I think you're right on third there. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a quick look at the replay in just a second there. Kirchmer, again, that's the second flag he's gotten, actually.
That was such a strong move because exactly what Canyon, you were trying to lure him to a long sprint, but then he just kind of used it to his advantage and just went from like 500 meters out. Impressive.
Interesting. Very impressive. Very impressive. Steven Kirchmer walks away again. And, man, he got a cone last week too, I think, but it was after the finish line. This one he got before the finish line. We'll have to wait and see what ends up happening with that. And it is all about verification. We'll have to wait and see. We're hearing from Aaron over at YouTube that Messineo got one yesterday. And we're hearing, there is some feedback coming through. And, it's too bad that the cone came on through there as, I don't know, was it too much watts per kilogram? Was it too fast for the section? we'll have to wait and see what the what the official results come in from the race organizers. Lars Huseball is in the broadcast chat here watching away. So we did see the cone. Zimmerman, that was a solid sprint. I'm seeing you in the broadcast here over at the Facebook chat here now, and there was a cone, and so we're not sure how it'll end up playing out. We'll get the results up here in just a moment, but it was Zimmerman, as far as what timing goes, it couldn't have been better. That's for sure. So well played there on your timing. We'll have to wait and see what ends up coming through for the actual results, though. But I appreciate you jumping into the broadcast here and appreciate the efforts out there. Back in the ladies' race, though, they're on the kickers now on the other side of the KOM, trying to make a break here. It's been over and over again from what I could see. Neelan from the Brat Pack BRT has been trying to break the rest of the pack. Cecilia Hansen, definitely the favorite on the day here. Now kicking into this 6% uphill gradient. This is the long kick after the KOM. Neela now trying to make a situation better for her here to try and maybe walk away. Not sure she can make something happen in a sprint situation up against Cecilia Hansen. She's shown herself time and time again, not only able to walk away with a TT effort with a breakaway situation, but also able to sprint solidly into that 8, 9, 10 watts per kilogram. That's the ladies. We got a breakaway, though, happening. The split is there. The elastic is snapping. Carolyn Fox, she's not able to close it down here, actually. And the Wahoo Esports team not able to hang on. She's sitting somewhere still in the top 10 of the race here, as well as the overall. But this is the roller coaster we were talking about. You got to hold on to the wheel here, Alex, and it looks like it's working out for this front pack.
Yeah, it's definitely a roller coaster, and it's not one of the fun ones, if you ask me. Like, this is one of the hardest sections. And for Cecilia, you also see it's probably better for her to stick with this group and close this down, because she can control a sprint of 5, even 10. It's a lot easier than if in some of the bigger groups when you have to control the sprint.
Yeah, Daniela here, from Revo, maybe not looking for that situation here. Grobler sitting in. She's not going to chase her teammate out down here. So it looks like Neeland here from the BRT team. It's going to be up to her. The Revo team continues to try and play some tactics here to break the rest of the super strong riders out here. I think that they're focusing on Jennifer Reel, obviously from Fearless, one of the most experienced, and she's showing her experience. Perhaps not the strongest rider when it comes to raw power out here, but she is definitely an experienced rider showing her power in knowing how to ride Zwift out here, sitting in the pack now, steady. And she's going to get a great result, actually, here in this Heino Cup here today for Jennifer Reel here from Team Fierce, coming out of the USA now. So as I look through the current situation for the watts per kilogram that have been put out so far, Straight Daniela actually has put out I think the least amongst the pack. Daniela has been waiting for this moment because she was actually at 3.0 watts per kilogram up until this point. The difference between the riders here, Vicky Neelan has put out a full 4.0, a full watt per kilogram higher, actually, than Daniela, actually, and they're both in this breakaway situation here. So perhaps Daniela with some extra energy reserves. We were seeing at the beginning of the broadcast, it's not always the rider who puts the most power out. It's the rider who has the best kick and gets across the line first. You were comparing it to a Mark Cavendish type situation. I mean, Daniela might have some hopes here, Alex.
Yeah, exactly. We were just talking about it before also with Alex West, that we saw he was third in the sprint. He was pretty much, I haven't seen his wattage, but he was sitting in the back the whole time. For sure, he's been saving a lot of power. So it's going to be interesting to see if Daniela can do the same in the sprint here with the ladies.
Yeah, for sure. And we're getting a lot of chatter coming on through over at the Facebook here. We're seeing Vicky Whitelaw saying, go Cecilia Hansen. Good times, y'all, from Adam Zimmerman. Some questions coming through John Watts. Kirschmerson guy, pro casually holding 9 watts for that long after VO2 max is elite. And, yes, just so you guys know, we're covering the A and A plus racers. At that level, you should expect, especially where we're getting to with this worldwide peloton, you should start to expect to see world tour type numbers. I mean, you're a world champion, Alex.
Exactly.
And I think that there's a reality that now that we have so many riders on Zwift, you will start seeing the cream of the crop when it comes to people all over the world. Just the genetic reality and the statistics of it is that you should start seeing world tour type efforts if showing up out on Zwift now.
I totally agree. Like, I think we are already seeing World Tour numbers on Swift. Like, the main difference between Swift and being outside is the like technique and being able to position yourself and being economical with your powers and so on. So there's so much more to actually riding outside. So just because you have the same numbers as a World Tour rider doesn't mean you can just go out and win the Tour de France or something. So it doesn't always translate, but the numbers you see on Swift are definitely World Tour numbers.
Yeah, exactly. And we're talking or world champion type numbers. No, there's a really great old as we start to see attack actually here coming from Daniela. She's looking to try and break, and she did this last week as well. She did suffer for it. Maybe this week it'll work out. She's got 6 watts per kilogram to give Cecilia Hansen, trying to bring that back out. Back now, we're seeing Neil and from BRT able to close it down. They were able to drop off Jennifer Reel, so Jennifer Reel is going to have to settle. It looks like for 5th place on the day. Still a great result for her, but now it's down to 4. Whittling it down. This is a great situation. The women, I love this. They are really putting the pressure on and making it an exciting race here, as it's just 4 racers starting to play the games that are when you're in a 4-up sprint coming to the line here, and we're starting to see the little kicks and see if they can drop somebody off, grabbing the wheels. Gets exciting at this point here, Alex.
Yeah, and it's a lot slower than your the normal sprint because it's such a small group. It's more like a track sprint between 2 sprinters where you can see themselves positioning because nobody wants to lead it out from the front, and that's what you're seeing right now.
Yeah, you are seeing Growler from Revo here, maybe working from Daniela, though. You know, this is a situation, if I were the teammate at this point, I'd say, look, I'll be the sacrifice. I'll make it fast enough that nobody can attack. You just sit on and wait to go. She's going to have to follow the wheel. They're going to have to time it correctly. They're going to have to really get their wattages matched. They're going to have to get their depth perceptions between the avatars matched really well here. But if we do go over to Daniela here, we get the first person perspective from her. Look, it's perfect here at this point. He's sitting on Hansen's wheel. This is exactly where she wants to be. She wants to follow Hansen's wheel.
Yeah.
Grobler here now leading things out, 3.4. That's around the threshold effort. She's keeping the pace quite high enough. What's your prediction here? You know, I don't know if Cecilia Hansen is beatable in the sprint, but if anybody can do
No.
it, it does look like Daniela.
Yeah, if anybody can do it, she can do it. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Swedish champion Cecilia Hansen for this sprint.
Yeah, she's not wearing that kit for no reason here. It does look like she's sitting on the second wheel following Neeland here now at this point. Neeland 2.2, it's starting to back off. Grauber, it looks like, has done her work and is not interested any longer in leading things out. Maybe Revo is going to take over at the front again. Maybe it was a little bit too early to really ramp things up here. We're about to take the last few turns here, and we'll see the little green marker on the right-hand side. That is the start of the sprint section. Not usually where you want to go for a full-on kick, but that's where the lead-out usually begins. The best place to usually go is that final bend where we saw Zimmerman go in the men's race if you already have closed down any gaps. And there is the marker up ahead as we are heading into some of the ruins. And Hansen now 2 points. Really some games being played, so much so that Jennifer Reel is almost back on the wheels here at 4 watts per kilogram. Grobler now takes
That'd
over
be
at
so
the front.
funny if she just went past them,
If
like
she
came from
just
behind,
like
just went straight
cruising,
over.
takes the
Yeah,
speed in. I mean, the speed is what matters, right? If she comes in with enough
exactly.
speed.
She could do that. Like it's two
Oh,
seconds now. Now the kick.
yep, the kick is going here. 11 watts per kilogram. Daniela goes early. Hansen looks to follow. It might be too late. We'll have to wait and see if she can hold on to it here. Hansen now kicks up into 9 watts per kilogram here. Now 7.3. She's trusting too much, it looks like, here at this point, that it's going to be brought back. But Hansen now kicks to 10 watts per kilogram. Daniela trying to continue on, but no. There it is. Hansen just shows why she's so incredibly powerful, why she's one of the strongest riders, and why she's wearing that Swedish national champions kit. It's Hansen, followed up by Daniela across the line. It was very great effort by Revo, but trying to take down one of the strongest riders amongst the women out on Zwift can be extremely difficult. Jumping out on course, it looks like going on over to 21st place is going to be Geitzen and Siri Hildonen looking to finish up their race as they finish out the exit to Titans Grove. But amazing racing out here, and we're seeing a lot of cheering on for Cecilia Hansen, actually. Let's go ahead and take a quick look, though, at the replays here from the men's race, as it was definitely an interesting sprint as things went very early. Take a look here. It was Kirchmer off the front. And the kick there coming so early, though, from Ollie Jones kind of set Kirchmer up there. We're seeing Zimmerman going across there. He's going to end up taking second place on the day. It looks like West did take third. I believe. We'll take a quick look over at the results here in just a second. Back in with the live racing from the women's race here. But Zimmerman back on the map maybe a little bit there. We haven't seen a result from Zimmerman in quite a while. With a new team, maybe a little motivation in the legs.
Yeah, he looked really like I obviously said Alex West was my prediction, so beating him, that's pretty good. And I hope that Zimmerman is going to be participating in this race league in the last 5 legs of the Heino Cup, so we can see him up against the Canyon boys and Kirschmeier some more.
Yeah, it'd be great to see. I mean, I think if things were timed a little bit better, Zimmerman could have maybe taken that down. Here was the sprint, though, coming from Cecilia Hansen, as well as Daniela leading things out. She got a gap, unable to quite hang on to it, though, as you do see Cecilia come over the top. She had a solid 10, 11 watts per kilogram to give, and she goes ahead and takes the win. Followed up closely there by Daniela will be Neelan, who's sitting in second place, able to grab that third place. It's good points, though. For the riders there in the front, Jennifer Reel will bump herself up in the standings as well with that result. So great racing all around. We'll see some change-ups maybe in the series overall as the riders, I think a couple of upsets maybe for some of the riders out there, as we were seeing Siri Hildonen off the back there, Jennifer Reel coming in with a solid result there. Turbo was not involved at all from what we could see in the final sprints there. So I think, Alex, I think a lot of the racers perhaps going to have to really fight it out because of the way the point structure works.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's points for almost everyone, so there's something to fight for each and every time of the Heino Cup. So I just I like this. It's almost a reminiscence of an Omnium on the track. So I think this format is pretty good, pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm loving the format, yeah, and good point there on the Omnium on the track there. I think the point structure is really playing out well for what the riders and why all the riders are actually showing up. Is there's some rewards actually we're working for. Alex, thanks a lot for joining with the broadcast. It's been great to have you on here, and we
No
look forward to
worries.
more times with
It's
you.
been a pleasure.
All right, cheers, Alex. Peace. All right,
Cheers.
everybody, that's going to be it for us here for the Heino Cup today. We'll be back tomorrow over on Zwift Live. So the Lamb Chop Series, it's a Zwift-owned event, so all the broadcast and everything is over on their broadcast space. Their official is Zwift Live, so make sure to go check that out. I'll be on commentary for that tomorrow for the Lamb Chop. And we will be back next week for, obviously, Heino Cup. There's a lot going on. There's probably going to be a new broadcast on Thursday/Friday, Southern Hemisphere. Be watching out for that announcement coming very quickly. We got to hammer out a few of the details, but more broadcasts coming. There's something new probably coming on Tuesdays as well, so keep your eyes peeled. I know you're all asking, get us a schedule, get us it in advance. It's coming. We've got some things finally hammered out here, and I'm super excited to make some announcements. And as soon as they come, they will be out there, and we'll start up again with our usual Sunday, Monday announcements about what is on the schedule throughout the rest of the Zwift racing season. So great job to all the racers, as always, out there. Really appreciate all you. Next week, we'll try and get some live results for you as well in graphics for the Heino Cup. If you want to check out the results, though, for who took what places, not just off the replays that we show you, head on over to zwiftpower.com and find the Dbr Heino Cup. Great job to all the racers, as always, and you guys know the drill. Don't go in the lava, of course. I wish we had the Milo meme here for you, as well as ride on.